The argument between both sides has been similar year after year, so I'd like to address what I think we're going to hear. One of the saddest parts of this debate has been the accusation that we're putting a price on life, and I'd like to reject that, but I'd like to reject that in both directions, because it would be easy if we were just going to get down into the gutter to say that well, you're putting a price on life, it's just higher, but that's not what we're doing, and it's important that we identify that right off the bat. I'd like to start up on a higher plane here if we could. Ladies and gentlemen, it disregards the accusation, if I'd come back at you that way in advance, trying to head this off, it disregards what every trial lawyer does in a personal injury lawsuit. Every trial lawyer in a personal injury case asks the jury to award damages for the injury or death. In doing that, the trial lawyer is not putting a price on life. He's asking for compensation for a loss. That's not a price on life. And the part that bothers me a little bit about that language, maybe it's personal, maybe somebody will disregard this, but nobody puts a price on life. It's not a commodity to be sold in a transaction between a willing seller and a willing buyer. We're in this situation and nobody wants to be. We're looking for compensation for something that was lost. So I'm going to try to take the high road on this right off the bat and remove. I'm not trying that, and I'm not going to accuse anybody on the other side of this legal battle of trying to do it, but at a higher cost. That's not right. Nobody wants to be in this situation. In a personal injury case, somebody got hurt. Somebody allegedly caused the hurt. So this isn't about price. The attorney is asking the jury to set the lawyer is not asking the jury to set a price. The lawyer is asking the jury to award compensation for an injury, and that's what I'm talking about also, is what is the compensation for the injury that addresses the loss and yet keeps our healthcare system whole, that gives us choices in healthcare and quality services in rural Iowa. The purpose of a civil action on a personal injury claim is to seek compensation. A civil action isn't supposed to be a lottery for anybody. It's compensation for a loss. It's not to produce a windfall of unearned wealth. It's to provide compensation, again, for an injury. And I can't hammer that enough because I want the tone of the debate to be actually that we're talking about making somebody whole without destroying the system around it and including the individual who's in court. Because when these runaway verdicts happen, 100% of the people are damaged. Our healthcare infrastructure gets sparser, mostly in rural, but also in urban. We lose specialists, we lose the ability to recruit, and sometimes we lose the ability to even insure. So under our law, compensation can include economic damages. And we can go through the definitions, but I think everybody knows what they are. For example, lost income is under economic. Lost potential income is economic. Actual and projected costs of medical care, adaptive equipment, costs and services that the injured person can no longer provide for others. These costs can be estimated with reasonable confidence based on objective evidence. The bill does not limit this kind of damages in any way. However, the law also allows a jury to award damages for personal injury that are not based on actual or projected costs or any other quantifiable basis. For example, damages for pain and suffering. These are non-economic damages, and that's what we're dealing with today. Since there is no objective standard to determine non-economic damages, juries often base such an award on subjective feelings. For the very same injury, one jury might award a plaintiff $50,000 in non-economic damages, while another jury might award $1 million. What's the difference between these cases? It's not the nature of the harm, but in the emotion of the jurors and the ability of the trial lawyers to harness these emotions. Awards of non-economic damages are so subjective as to be almost arbitrary, and I would flat out say they are arbitrary because they're not based on anything specific. As outlined in a 2016 University of Iowa Law Review, studies find that the more you ask for, the more you get. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the very definition of arbitrary. And we have seen demands get larger and larger over the years. Policy-wise, as we sit here as elected officials looking to set policy for the state of Iowa, we have to recognize everybody's job in this system. A jury has no responsibility for applying the law to the facts in a specific case. It's not their job to consider societal impacts, costs, or harm that a verdict may bring about, such as the effects on the health care costs or availability. Legislators, on the other hand, must consider these implications. It's our job to make policy decisions that balance proper compensation for injured people with access for Iowans to health care at reasonable costs. A part of this balancing is to consider the effect of large jury verdicts on the cost of insurance. Recent Iowa trends indicate larger awards of damages are happening in medical malpractice cases. In just 5 cases, 2018 to 2021, juries awarded over $84 million, of which 75%, and that's $63 million, was non-economic damages. And in November 2022, a jury awarded $27 million in a single case, and that's not even to get into the largest nuclear verdict or award that we're all aware of $97 million, is it? This affects the cost of malpractice insurance. As early as 2022, Constellation, Iowa's largest malpractice insurer, covering about 1/3 of the market, raised rates by 14% since mid-2020. The insurer for One Health System's residency programs doubled premiums while cutting coverage in half in 2020, then pulled out of the Iowa market completely in 2021. We hear, I have letters of testimony I can read here shortly, from clinics, hospital units, and residency programs about difficulties in finding coverage. Iowa ranks 42 in the nation for number of physicians per capita, even lower for specialties such as obstetrics and emergency medicine, which are most lacking in rural Iowa, in western Iowa, but I know I hear it all the way against the Mississippi River as well. In rural Iowa, fewer and fewer hospitals are delivering these babies. Some providers may confront elimination of crucial but litigation-targeted services like obstetrical care, which you'll hear about from Manning, from Dennison in my testimonies, as to maintain liability coverage for basic services. Without controls, Iowa's malpractice insurance cost environment will continue to deteriorate. So will access to medical care. High jury awards put our hospitals and clinics and the health of Iowans at risk. So let's talk about the effect of caps on non-economic damages.